Every business, regardless of its size, must provide its employees with safe working conditions. And considering the range of potential hazards, from asbestos to slippery stairs to excessive noise, that can be difficult for a small business. And why should everyone be so concerned about job safety and health? Because each year, approximately 6,000 employees in this country die from workplace injuries, while another 50,000 die from illnesses caused by exposure to workplace hazards. In addition, 6 million workers suffer non-fatal workplace injuries at an annual cost to U.S. businesses of more than $125 billion. Standards and rules for safe working conditions, tools, equipment, facilities, and processes are set by the Labor Department's Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA. OSHA standards apply to every private employer with one or more employees, except for those in industries covered by other federal job safety legislation. Today, roughly 93 million employees across the country are protected by state and federal OSHA programs. But even with adequate safety measures, accidents do happen.
Today, the Insider Exclusive investigative news team goes behind the headlines in this Justice in America TV special, Worker Safety, Oscar Avalos story, to examine how Jim Scher and Sam Legate, partners Scher Legate, successfully got justice for Oscar. On September 14, 2016, Oscar Avalos, a 54-year-old El Paso construction worker, and another worker were placing a sewer line inside a 7-foot-deep trench off Donovan Drive in El Paso, Texas. The city contract required an engineer-approved trench safety system that would have prevented a collapse. Instead, the dirt walls were held up by large metal plates. Trench collapse is one of the greatest dangers in water and sewer construction. Protection against trench collapse is simple, effective, and has been around for over 30 years. On a government job where the government required trench safety, the contractor took shortcuts. Shortcuts can mean death or serious bodily injury, and those shortcuts resulted in tragedy for Oscar Avalos. A plate weighing 1,500 pounds dropped on Avalos as the dirt rained down. His co-worker escaped by crawling out, but Avalos was pinned. Thousands of pounds of dirt and metal plates fell atop him. He was suffocating and in a lot of pain. A worker using an excavator tried to lift the metal plate, but it fell again on Avalos. His co-workers pulled him out unconscious. 10 days later, he woke up from a coma. Avalos' spleen was shattered. His pancreas was removed in emergency surgery. He had 11 broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and broken bones in his back and a shoulder injury. Avalos can walk but is now disabled and will require further neck and back surgery. Jim Scher and Sam Legate won a $4.4 million jury verdict for Oscar, but that hasn't taken away the injuries from a trench collapse that could have killed him. After the verdict, Avalos was quoted as saying, "I think justice was served. The jury helped me when nobody else would help me, and I especially want to thank my lawyers, Jim Scher and Sam Legate." Jim and Sam have earned the highest respect from citizens and lawyers alike as two of the best trial lawyers in El Paso, in Texas, and in the nation. And because of that, they are driven to fight for people who have been harmed by the willful or negligent actions of others. Jim and Sam have built a substantial reputation nationwide by consistently winning cases other law firms have turned down. And their amazing courtroom skills and headline-grabbing success rate continue to provide their clients with the results they need and the results they deserve. This is the Insider Exclusive, live from El Paso, Texas.
It is my great pleasure to introduce Sam Legate and Jim Scher to the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
It's good to be back here again. Good old El Paso, right? Tell our audience a little bit about your firm, Sam. What do you primarily do?
Well, primarily we represent victims of other people against people that have violated the law.
Yeah.
Whether the law is protecting them and their personal life, or whether it's their work, or against injury on the job. That's primarily what we do.
Do you have a lot of people that come to you and say, I want to sue, or I don't know whether I have a case, and I don't know what to do? What is the common expression that you hear? Because most of these people, right, have never been in a courtroom before, right? The majority of them.
Right. I don't think anyone's ever come in and said, I want to sue. Or, you know, they come in and they just describe what has happened to them.
Yeah.
Whether it's I've lost my job, or I have $100,000 in medical bills because I was injured on the job, or I was injured in some sort of accident.
Let's talk about this case, Oscar Avalos case. How did you end up getting the case, and what were the facts of the case?
A fine and distinguished attorney called and asked if we would help on this case, and he sent the case over. And we met with Mr. Avalos and investigated the case and filed suit against the general contractor on it. It was very obvious from inception that the general contractor had been totally disregarding safety laws that had been on the books for over 40 years. And a very serious, probably the most dangerous dangerous thing in excavation is trench collapse. And it happened here because of ignorance, because of disregard, because someone just didn't care about the safety of the people working in the trench.
Now, you went to court on this, right? It went all the way to trial.
Yes, sir.
Right? And you got a $4.5 million verdict, I believe?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you say it's very obvious, right, from the get-go, that they had violated all safety laws around there, they knew this too, didn't they?
They should have. They absolutely should have.
Okay, so why are they going to trial? Because here you have a nice, ordinary, average guy, Oscar Avalos, who's severely injured. How many pounds of dirt or ended up on top of him?
Well, I think what Jim left out of the case was how stupid the whole thing was, because there are what are called trench boxes that are you put down in the trench, and the worker works in between the steel in the middle of the box, which saves them. Well, in this case, to save money, because really that's what generally happens in these cases, is somebody trying to save money, be cheap. They put $1 in their pocket, and they'll take the risk with someone else's life. The supervisor's not down there. So in this case, that's absolutely what they did. They took street plates, and we've all seen those. Those are the steel things that'll be down on the street if there's a hole in the street.
Over.
Right, which is just a single sheet. And they drove those into the ground instead of having them supported like a trench box, which is two pieces like this with the crossbars. Well, instead of that, they just had one. So when it started collapsing, then the sheet, just poor Mr. Avalos, who's just a laborer. They didn't value his life much. It was better to save a little money than to value his life. So of course, this probably several ton piece of steel just fell down and crushed him, and crushed all his inside organs, and he's very, very lucky to even been alive.
Again, what I'm going to say, they were aware that they made a mistake. I understand that one of the members on their team, one of their construction chiefs or whatever, had known that the city required these in their contracts, right? Ignored it, correct?
Yes, sir. In fact, they
so why are they going to trial? That's my question.
Well, there's legal defenses that they want to try to maneuver around. You know, it's the typical thing on a construction site, and this is what you see so often. It's where they take the fingers like this. Oh, it's not my fault, it's his. No, it's not my fault, it's theirs. And that's all they did. And they all kept thinking it would end up on someone else's lap. And they wouldn't have to pay.
So our audience understands a little bit about, from the moment that Oscar came to you, or the case came to you, how long does it take to get justice in these cases? You know, the investigation, the discovery process, going to trial, the delays, usually how long? 3, 4 years?
It takes years.
It takes years. Yeah, and now in this particular case, what were some of the legal issues that you had to prove?
First, we had to show that there was control by the general contractor. The general contractor tried to say it was the fault of his subcontractor, who was the employer of Oscar Avalos. And that's one of the reasons the employer was trying to pawn off the responsibility and not have to pay any money by putting the blame on someone else. And so those type of legal issues, control, negligence, and damages, were the three issues that went to the jury in this case. And the contract was so clear that they'd sign on a government bid job that the general contractor was in control of the entire place. They were even paid to have a trench plan prepared for safety of the workers. They took the money but didn't even use it. They stuck the trench plan in a drawer in the trailer and never even looked at it.
How much, I'm just curious, how much more would it have cost to build a trench box?
A
lot more money?
Trench box, they probably had access to them and just left them upstairs and never put them below grade.
It would seem that these can be used over and over again, correct?
They are. The water utilities company owns a bunch of them. The companies came down from Kansas to El Paso, probably didn't want to lug a big trench box down here, and just to save money, because you can rent them. You can go get them from a construction company rental.
Right.
And but it's cheaper. Take some street plates, drive them in the ground, and the supervisor's not down there.
Right now we have with us your client, Oscar Avalos. So let's bring him on right now. Thank you for being with us today, Oscar. We also have Elizabeth Soto, who's your translator. Take us back to that day and the pain and suffering and what was going through your mind at the time you were injured.
No, era mucho dolor. Yo estaba pensando que ya me iba a morir. Andamos poniendo pipa en una zanja de 7 pies y luego se me cayó una lámina de un lado con 13 toneladas de tierra en un lado. Me estaba prensando.
It was really bad. I thought I was going to die. We were working at a site putting pipes, and a trench with 13 tons fell on top of me, and it was really heavy, so I felt like I was really going to die.
Right. Now, since that time, Oscar, how has your life changed?
No mucho, demasiado, porque no me puedo hacer la idea que ya no puedo trabajar, porque yo todavía podía trabajar muy bien. Y ahora miro la gente trabajando y me da mucha tristeza no andar yo ahí trabajando también.
It has changed a lot dramatically because I can't make myself to the idea that I cannot work anymore. I was able to work perfectly fine, and now when I see people working, I get really sad and have a really hard time accepting that I can no longer work.
What is your opinion about the way that Jim Scher and Sam Legate's law firm handled your case?
Oh, pues muy bien, lo manejaron bien porque nadie podía hacer nada por mí, todos andando, una compañía decía que él no tenía la culpa y el otro que no, y yo miré a otros abogados y nadie me pudo ayudar hasta que llegué aquí con ellos, él me ayudó.
They did really well for me because I had seen other attorneys and nobody wanted to help, and not one of the companies wanted to take care of me, none of them wanted to do anything for me until I got here, then they took care of me.
I want to thank you very much for being on the show, and we hope that you can find something meaningful to do with all the time that you have. We hope you get better.
Está bien, gracias.
We also have an expert that was used in this case, the former area OSHA director, Jim North. So we're going to bring him on right now. I want to thank you very much for being on the show, Jim.
Yes, sir.
You were the area director for OSHA before, right?
Yes, in various locations.
What is OSHA for our audience, and what do they do, and how do they protect workers?
OSHA is a federal part of the U.S. Department of Labor, and it is an organization that has responsibility for occupational safety and health, basically in the United States, to establish proper codes and to do inspections and investigations and to do enforcement action. How
does a problem or a work injury come to the attention of OSHA?
Well, a problem may come to the attention of OSHA by means of a complaint or a referral, or it may be because that there is a fatality or a newsworthy event, or it may be that there is a hospitalization of over 3 persons.
Right. You know, a lot of people think when the government's involved with something, inspecting it, investigating it, safety is not one of their urgent issues. Is that the case with OSHA?
Well, OSHA, safety is their business.
Yeah.
And so that's all they do is safety and health issues. And it's occupational safety and health issues.
What are some employers' responsibilities in dealing with workers' rights under OSHA?
The declared purpose of the OSHA Act was to provide a safe workplace for workers in the United States. So anything that affects the well-being of the worker comes under OSHA's responsibility. It may be training, it may be physical guards, it may be maintenance of equipment, it may be safety programs or construction activities.
Yeah. When a worker makes a complaint about an unsafe working condition and the company retaliates against them, are these cases that you would handle? And how does OSHA get involved with that?
Well, from an OSHA standpoint, it's against the law to retaliate against a worker for making a complaint, and they have their own 11C investigators that go into the workplace to investigate that sort of thing. Okay. And they have enforcement action to enforce the rehiring and also the payment of wages that may be lost.
Now, you were brought in here because of the case that you were involved with, Oscar Avalos.
That's correct.
What were the problems that the employer did not follow?
Well, this was an excavation
Yeah.
work case in El Paso, and they were installing a water line or a sewer line, and so the issues that came up would be, were they following an established and required excavation plan? Were they safeguarding the trench or the excavation physically, and were they training their workers and supervising their workers and inspecting the job site to ensure that this plan that they're required to have under their contract and the OSHA standards were being followed.
And they did not follow the plan, right?
No, they
As
didn't.
required by OSHA, right?
That's correct.
And they were taking a shortcut, correct?
Yeah, they basically just were using some stuff in the hole that was not safe for the workers.
I understand that the protection laws and the way to do this correctly and safely have been around for 30 years, right?
Since about 1971.
Yeah.
So about 40 years now.
In a nutshell, what should they have been doing?
They should have been using a trench box or a steel protection for the workers in there, rather than just plain sheets of top protection.
Right. Instead, they were using in a box would protect in case the thing caved in. Correct.
Right. The workers would be inside the box. If there were a cave in, they'd be protected. In this case, they were just using some sheet steel that they'd use topside for traffic protection.
Yeah. Anyone can see in America when they drive around people working in trenches on roads, putting new pipes, fixing the roads, that sort of thing. Are they all using the proper OSHA safety methods by having a trench box?
Probably not.
Probably not. What happens to these employers when you say probably not, and this has been around for 30 years, it would seem to me that there's not enough punishment or damages or fines levied against the employers to correct this. Would you say that's true?
Well, that's been improved over the years. The penalties that are tied in with noncompliance are, OSHA has more tools now than what they used to have.
What are these penalties?
They can range up to $70,000 for a violation.
Per incident?
Per incident, depending on what their classification is.
Can someone be prosecuted for negligence?
Only if there's a death case. If there's a death case involved and there's a willful violation, then that can be turned over to the Justice Department for prosecution.
Do they prosecute employers like that?
They do.
They do.
Not as many as perhaps occur as the number of deaths occur, certainly not, but there are cases where every year they take some in. Basically, that's a question of resources. It's a question of resources with the Justice Department. It's a question of resources with OSHA.
Yeah, as we see time and time again, there's a lot of laws on the books. If there's no money to enforce them, they're practically useless.
That's true, and this is a very serious hazard that we have when people are working underground, because a cubic yard of dirt, 27 cubic feet of dirt, weighs between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds, much as a pickup truck.
Is there anything else in this particular case, in your investigation in this case, that people should be aware of when they're working in situations like this?
Well, anytime we go below grade, and we're 5 feet or deeper, we require some kind of protection for the worker. Yeah. It may be a trench box, or it may be solid shoring, or it may be angling the dirt back so there's nothing to fall in. Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for being on this program, because you have an expertise that a lot of people need to be aware of. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it.
In America, everywhere in the world, but in America, there's a lot of construction accidents, right? What should a construction worker, when they're injured, beyond getting his immediate, medical needs taken care of, what is the process that he or she should follow to seek remedies for injuries that he suffered on the job?
Immediately, that person should contact legal counsel.
Okay.
And learn what their rights are, and talk to the attorney before they start talking to the insurance company or the employer or anyone else, because everyone else is going to try to find some way to try to get out of paying them.
Right.
That injured worker needs immediate representation, somebody on that person's side who's looking out for their interest, advising them and protecting them and gathering and protecting the evidence.
I would imagine that the insurance companies, like in automobile accidents, contact you right away and try to get your side of the story and maybe change your side of the story and use it against you, right?
They would probably contact the worker. I don't know if the insurance company would so
Yeah.
much, but the employer, most employers are sharp enough to try to get the employee down and get him to say something that
Yeah.
doesn't help the employee but helps the employer.
Right. Last question, and I'm directing this to you, Sam. How do you select your clients and your cases?
Well, first of all, we don't really select our clients. Our clients select us.
Okay.
And what we look at primarily are, can we help the person? Is there something we can do? If we work hard enough, on a case you never know what it's worth at the beginning, and you never really know what it's worth till the end. And our motto at our firm is work every case like it's $1 million case, and it may turn into one for your client.
Well, I want to thank both of you for spending time with us today, because we admire your work, and keep it up. People of El Paso need you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining us. You can get more information about our guest and the issues at insiderexclusive.com.